So this is kind of part two, Seth. I thought I would set myself up here so I could talk and demonstrate around the same thing. So very often what happens in terms of the hand pronating too much or supinating too much, I'll try to describe what I actually feel changes in my shoulder and through my elbow when I do one and the other. So a lot of people they don't have a criteria. They simply just put their hand down. And for a lot of people, they really roll in. They put a lot of the weight on the kind of the meaty part of the thumb. And so the wrist is really rolling across. And when it does that, if you can see these little movements in my forearm, it's as if my elbow, as I'm rolling the wrist inward, this part of my elbow is actually spinning, spiraling, winging out. And when that wings out, my shoulder, there's just an ever so subtle feeling that my shoulder collapses this way. I'll exaggerate. And that's the falling forward in the joint and sort of jamming up into the roof. It's this kind of thing when it's extreme. So then I can take it the other way. I can roll my wrist out and put a lot of weight on the pinky. And again, when you put a lot of the pressure on this outer part of the hand out here, I don't think you have the big part of the radius really connected to where the weight is. It's really okay to have the weight centered really there in the palm. You just have to understand that this bone is really in the background and is a big part of your aim through the forearm. So when you're doing things like this, you may have the weight a little bit more over the base of the palm that's under the second or third finger, but you're really trying to aim up through the ulna, and not go through the radius where you're sort of collapsing in and all the movements of the shoulder basically get jammed up this way. When it really gets good, you start to really have access to a deeper place in the back and the rib cage. And part of what you're trying to create, right, is a more and more ideal stability through the hand so that you really don't have the sense that you're pushing or pressing against the surface, but that the hand, the shape of the hand and the aim through the forearm are so skillful that you really can just come away from the hand, right? That it's possible for the spine to have such a nice connection into that stability that the spine can articulate, and you can make all the movements with your sternum and the rest of your back because of the clarity that you have in the contact of the hand. If you're too far rolled in and you're spiraling out, it's going to feel like the head just lifts at the neck, and all this stuff is very, very heavy and not very cooperative. And that's the way most people experience these lessons in the beginning. But obviously all the variations you do, all the sliding of the knee, that's all designed to wake up the more proximal musculature. So that whole aim is really important. And one of the little details that I've begun to work with is what I told you about in the comment, was this way of treating the hand almost like I'm opening a peanut butter jar, like I'm turning the lid of a peanut butter jar that way. Now I don't actually move the hand when I do this, but I have this. I'll sort of mush the skin of the table. You can see the vinyl kind of. I don't even know if I do it that much, but I definitely want to understand that direction is available for me, and that's the direction that's going to provide me with a superior kind of strength and stability, whereas going this way has no future. This way is I'm just going to collapse into my support more and more, and that's the opposite of having the kind of stability where I can just come away from it. One of the things that I've often worked with is this notion of the second and third fingers and even the thumb, almost like I'm reaching to make them longer. I wouldn't say flatter. I would just say longer. And at the same time, the fourth and fifth fingers, I really picture as pulling shorter, pulling in to this part of the hand. So you're really activating somehow the flexors that feed so deeply into the elbow. And so you have this very slight spiral in the hand. And these are all images that can be worked on and that I'll try to include when I record some more of those lessons on the inner edges of the arms. But the turning of the peanut butter jar lid is a nice image to play with. I don't think you need to have this huge arch in the hand like that. I think you can really kind of minimize it. It of course depends on how much weight you're going to put on the hand. If you're doing a handstand, you've got an enormous amount of weight on the hand, so the dynamics of course might change quite a bit. But again, it's about finding a certain kind of stability that promotes a certain kind of movement where the spine can feel really integrated and weightless and even be the main thing that initiates the movement that you're making. Okay? So I hope that's helpful.